auction review time again, and on this occasion it's the H&H auction held on Wednesday the 6th of April at the National Motorcycle Museum. Usual format, we've hand selected what we think are some of the most interesting lots that were put through the auction, and I'm going to finish on the one bike that, if I could have picked anything, is the one I'd like to have taken home. So where do we begin? Lot 273, which was a 1991 Norton Rotary F1. Now, we've spoken about these bikes before, but this is a little bit special, this one. It's a one-off. It was the only one produced in this stunning red metallic paint. As we mentioned before, made for only 2 years, 1990, 1991, 600cc or thereabouts, rotary engine, liquid cooled, wrapped in this box section aluminium frame, gorgeous bodywork, normally seen in their black and gold livery, sort of replicating those John Player special racing bikes from previous years. It's really, really unusual to see one in a different colour. It makes the bike look so different as well. Now, they only made, 140 of these, very rare machines, very high spec. This particular one presented in immaculate condition. I had a really good look around it, and even under the fairing and into the engine, it just looked absolutely mint, as good as new. Hasn't been run for a large number of years, just used as a display bike. 380 miles on the clock, or 346 miles from new. It is like a new machine, really. Would require some recommissioning if you wanted to take it back on the road, but the condition it in was just absolutely superb. Estimate on that bike, 20 to 24,000, which was pretty good for one of these, and it beat its estimate, so it was £27,600 all in. Next bike is another British bike from a completely different period this time though, so it's a vintage machine, 1929 Coventry Eagle Flying 8, the E120 model. So this was a side valve 1000cc model with a Jap engine, their 4-cam engine that was around 30 brake horsepower at the time. Top of the range machine. So Coventry Eagle were, well, they've got a long history. They've been manufacturing bicycles and other components from as early as 1898, but they didn't change to the Coventry Eagle name until 1903. And the first machines branded like that started to appear. So a company with real heritage in the pioneering days of motorcycles. In fact, Percy Mayo, who was one of the founders, worked with George Brough when he was developing his own V-twin machines. And you can see the similarities with the Coventry Eagle to some of the Broughs in terms of the shape of the tank and the lines used. Also, of course, they used the same Jap side valve engine that George Brough used. Coventry Eagle, however, they produced a lot of machines that were sort of everyday commuter bikes, so 2-stroke single cylinders, and then these V-twins were their top of the range sports tourer models. Even rarer than Brough Superiors, made in much lower numbers. This particular bike is a 1929 model. They first started in the V-twins in 1923. Very rare. The condition of this was unbelievable. It was what looks to be original paintwork on the tank, and just overall the patina on it and the age to it was just stunning. It's a running machine with its V5, correct engine, frame, original gearbox, all matching numbers. A really, really stunning example, time warp condition. Estimate 60 to £70,000, and again it smashed that. There was some eager bidding on this bike. It achieved £94,300 all in. So let's come a bit more modern now. A pair of Suzukis. We'll start with lot 242, 1981 Suzuki GS 1000S. So this was the Transverse 4 double overhead cam, air-cooled 90 brake horsepower machine. A powerful bike in its day. And I believe that these were actually the first Suzukis to be produced and sold with a fairing on. So it had that gorgeous little bikini fairing and was the sports version of their GS 1000. It was also known as the Wes Cooley replica because it replicates some of the bikes that he rode and others in the AMA Superbike series of that particular time. 2 colour schemes, blue or white or red and white. This particular one being presented in red and white. Really good looking bikes. Pretty good condition overall. Engine is working but requires some recommissioning to get it ready for the road. It's got non-original exhaust on it, but other than that, it looks pretty standard. Matching numbers, estimate on this, £8,000 to £9,000? We did see one sell last year for £13,800 actually from H&H, but on this occasion, it didn't reach its estimate, so still for sale that one. The next Suzuki is 2-stroke this time. 1988 Suzuki RG500 Gamma. So the RG500 was the ultimate two-stroke race replica at its time, only made officially between 85 and 87, so sort of 2 years. This one wasn't registered until 1988, so one of the last ones produced. 95 brake horsepower, weighing just 340 pounds dry, power to weight ratio superb, the ultimate race replica for the road. Very original condition, this machine, presented really well, and in the slightly different colour scheme to what you normally see them in, that standard blue and white. This has got a different colour scheme to what you usually see, the rarer of the two. Just 8,717 miles, believed original from new. It's not been run for several years, so it will need recommissioning. 1 or 2 signs of age when you looked up close, but overall, very nice condition. Came with its UK V5, so wouldn't take much to get it going and ride and enjoy again. Estimate on that, 11 to 15,000 pounds, and this one achieved 15,025 pounds all in. Right, another pair of machines this time, something super rare. So a pair of Maseratis. Now, we all know Maserati from making, or more known for making, high-class sports cars. They're actually established beginning of the 20th century and were originally manufacturing parts for the aero industry, and spark plugs, believe it or not, were their main sort of source of income for a number of years. They started manufacturing cars in the 1920s, and then in the post-war years began making some lightweight motorcycles that were in demand at the time for sort of affordable transport in the post-war years. Made up until about 1960, but in very small numbers. We've got 2 examples here. Lot 257 is a 1955 125cc 2-stroke, finished in all red. You see the Maserati badge, the Trident badge on the tank there, in very nice condition, fully restored, needs recommissioning, hasn't been run for a number of years, but a very, very smart example. And the second bike, even more desirable, was the 1955 160 T4. T4, so the T, tempo, quattro means 4 time, 4-stroke in Italian. So this is 160, single cylinder, 4-stroke machine. Again, beautifully presented, really, really nice. Needs some recommissioning, but is with its V5. Very, very rare bikes. They look very similar, and in construction of the engine, overhead valves, very similar to MV Agustas, FB Mondials, or Moto Marinas of the time. Very little difference. However, because they've got Maserati on the tank, these normally attract a really high premium. 3 times what you would pay for one of those other machines. And that's reflected in the estimates. So the 2-stroke had an estimate of £6,000 to £8,000, and the 4-stroke, £9,000 to £11,000. However, on this occasion, they both remained unsold, so they're still out there. Contact H&H if you fancy one of those. Very rare bikes, very nice things. Lot 209, a 1977 Honda CB400F. So inline 4, 408cc, 37 brake horsepower, single overhead cam. These bikes have really become extra popular in the last, 3 or 4 years. Prices steadily rising on them. And we saw a record-breaking price on one of these on one of our earlier videos, the Silverstone one, where it fetched, over £15,000. Really nice, presented in varnished blue. It's very original condition. It's not been restored. And when you looked at it, a little bit scruffy around the edges, but overall presented quite well. Did need some recommissioning, so it wasn't quite ready to ride yet. But what it did feature was its original exhaust system, so that river of chrome, which often, get ruined over the years and are expensive or difficult to find replacements. It comes with its UK V5. It looked a really smart bike. Estimate on that, £2,000 to £3,000, which seemed fairly good, but it absolutely smashed it. It got £4,715, including commissions. So let's look at another British bike, a 1936 Norton Model 18, overhead valve 500cc single. Beautiful girder forks, pre-war bike, featuring the 4-speed Dole's Head gearbox. Now, these were called the Dole's Head gearbox because they were originally a Sturmey Archer hand-speed gearbox that Norton would buy in. Sturmey Archer was sold off by Rally Motorcycles, and Norton bought the rights to that gearbox, converted it to foot change, which meant they had to create this additional part of the gearbox on top. And when you look at it from the front, it looks a little bit like a doll's head stuck on top there, so that's where it got the name from. But it meant that it was brought up to date and it was a foot change box. Now, This particular bike is beautifully presented. All the chrome and paintwork looks spot on. It's fully restored and recently restored as well, so excellent condition. It was a non-matching engine and frame, so that means it's had a replacement Model 18 engine put in at some time. Correct for the period, but it will reflect in the price, probably knock off about 25, even 30% of the value on this. Comes with its UK V5. Estimate £7,000 to £8,000. Actually sold for £8,625 all in. Next up, something a bit Marmite, these bikes, but I couldn't stop looking at it when it was in the auction room, and see what you think. It's lot 324. It's a Honda 250 Super Dream from 1981. So these were air-cooled 4-stroke 250cc twin-cylinder machine, 3-valve. They were produced between 1978 and 1986. Very run-of-the-mill machines, workhorses. They were loved by commuters and by couriers back in the day as well. There was also a 400cc version, gave a little bit more power, but styling-wise looked exactly the same. Now, they were very sort of porridge bikes of their time. Lots of them were ridden to, they basically fell apart and discarded because they were worth nothing. Now, finding good ones is actually proving to be a little bit difficult now. And when they do crop up, they do stand out. This particular one, fully restored, bare metal restoration. Where replacement parts were needed, there were new old stock and decent bits from David Silver. The paintwork was immaculate on it. It looked stunning. The only non-standard thing really was the fact that the Comstar wheels that were popular at Honda at the time, these are the black reversed ones, which were actually from a slightly later year, but they look stunning. They really set the bike off. It's metallic paintwork, beautiful. Comes with a courier rack on the back, which would have been optional extra at the time. Really, really nice example. And a proper classic now, so it's a 1981 machine. Estimate just £2,000 to £3,000. This bike would have had a fortune spent on it. It achieved £3,450 all in. So final bike, the bike that if I could have picked any machine, this is the one I'd like to have taken home. A complete one-off. It's lot 329, a Velostar. So what's a Velostar? It's basically, if you take the frame from a BSA and put in an engine from a Velocette Venom, you've got a Velostar, and it's got the look and style of a DBD34 Clubman Gold Star, but the power unit from that really, really nice 500 single Velocette Venom engine. The work that goes into producing this, making that engine fit in that frame and look like it belongs to that frame is no mean feat. And the way this bike was presented, beautifully engineered, proper concourse condition throughout, running and riding, so ready to use straight away. Only 400 miles since it was completed. It must have cost a fortune to do this machine. With its UK V5, a proper one-off cafe racer special. You're not going to see another one of these, so you really would stand out from the crowd with this bike. I loved it. Estimate £9,000 to £10,000. Well, it didn't reach its estimate actually, but it did sell. It was agreed sale, just £7,475 for this gorgeous one-off special. That's the bike I would have liked to have taken home. So leave your comments below. We'd love to know what you think of the bikes we've selected, and we'll see you again soon.